Hello and welcome to your NARSA Weekly Update for the week commencing Monday the 23rd of September 2024. It's Gary here again, and I was kind of hoping that we would get an opportunity to concentrate just on football for a wee bit here, coming off the back of a good performance and result at the weekend and on the cusp of two very important games and two very important competitions for us. I was hoping to make it all about the football, but that just doesn't seem to be the way that we roll most of the time. We have this baggage, this extraneous weight that accompanies us all the time as Rangers fans, which is the boardroom, the business drama, or unfoldings of new information and interpretation and everything else that kind of goes with that, and it gets a little bit in the way of just being a typical sports fan. It's a bit more than that as a Rangers fan, and since last week we now have, I don't know if it's a formal call for an extraordinary general meeting, but there was certainly talk of that in one of the statements that was put out from Dave King via Chris Jack, and saying, I would like to have an EGM, and I think the shareholders would look for that as we are looking for some discernible change within the boardroom. Now, with the fact that genuinely don't know whether it's a formal request, I don't know if the club formally have to respond to that, or if that's the case, what that actual formal response would look like. But anyway, it's out there in the communication realm, I guess you could probably say, and it's something that we're going to have to put up with as we go forward. What I think here we have to appreciate now is that everyone's style is different. And to kind of reiterate what I'd said on the piece that I did last week on this, was I think the best thing to do is for everyone to sit down, virtually or in person, whatever is going to work well for everyone's schedules and geographic locations, and just have an honest, open conversation. Let personality conflicts, likes and dislikes go out the way, and genuinely think about what's best for Rangers Football Club. That's what you took on when you took on a directorship and a board position at Rangers Football Club, was to always put their interests first, over and above your own. And I did mention last week, I don't know what the job description of a director is, so I'll caveat this little piece with that. But that's why you do it. You're there to represent the football club to the best of your ability. Now, if that means that you think Dave King should or should not be anywhere near the club, and then you're going to champion that, you're going to position yourself as that, you're going to move forward from that. I don't know that we get a chance to have those honest, open conversations, though, because I don't know how often, if at all, they get around the table. Now, I appreciate that Dave King is not a director. He's not a member of the board, which seems to be a wee bit unusual, being the majority shareholder. However, again, I don't know the business rules around that. It just optically seems like it would be a thing. But I think if we can get everyone around a table, we can have a strong facilitation of these conversations, have everyone get their position on the table about what they want. And whenever I've done that in any type of conflict situation over the years, the positions generally are not that far apart. When you take away the noise, when you take away any ego and personality conflict and history and other experiences that people have with each other, and you actually get down to brass tacks and you say, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? Invariably, they're not that far away. And if we can get that done, then we can get common agreement about what's happening, what's coming next, and what we project the future to be. Then we're in a position to move forward and say, right, okay, I had a conversation, not all my questions were answered, but I got what I needed, and this is the way that things are going to work going forward. But in lieu of discernible, open and honest conversations about the things that can be shared from the club, we are left speculating, we're left guessing. And today's press conference with the chairman, I think, is, it hasn't really answered anything. I'll get to that during the communication section here in a wee bit. Here's a life lesson. I don't know if I've ever mentioned it on this podcast. I certainly do on my own business podcast. People can put up with anything as long as they know. Now, what I mean by that is I don't mean that the Rangers board should come out and tell us absolutely everything that's going on behind the scenes, who likes who, what damage has been done by certain decisions that have been made and all that. I don't mean, breaking any confidences, but people can put up with anything as long as they know. If you could sit down with each of the major key players on the board, get the major shareholder in there, and then get your positions on the table, everyone else knows what the circumstance and situation is then, and then you have an opportunity to move forward. If you don't do that, then you're left rumouring, speculating, supposing, and a whole bunch of other stuff that isn't actually dealing with the truth and that isn't genuinely material for moving us forward. I'm telling you folks things that you already know. I know this, I'm just using this as a wee bit of a platform to see if there's any way that we can try and nudge that forward, to get those conversations happening behind the scenes, to get us with a more united front and give us an opportunity to start to build from some successes that we might have enjoyed over the last wee while, certainly in terms of the result in the weekend and some of the deals that the club has been signing in the background as well. So it's not falling apart, I guess is probably the best way to say that. Anyway, on to the game section. One game this past week, as you know, and that was Saturday's 3-0 win in the League Cup quarter-final against Dundee at home. Back at Ibrox at last. A bit of a sparse crowd there, which is kind of typically to be expected in a quarter-final. I don't believe that season ticket holders get these games for free anymore. I know when I was a season ticket holder back in the day, the first home game of the competition, you would get that for free, but I think over the years that luxury went away. But, you know, so I don't think that's a sign of anything other than it's another game, it's an expensive game, you know, we have an opportunity to watch it if you have access to premium sports, and we'll just do something else. But I don't know what the crowd was. There was just a lot of blue seats there. And I thought we played well overall. I didn't think we were in much danger, as it should be when we're playing Dundee at home. You know, we had CD9 doing what CD9 should be doing in a quarter-final of a cup competition, and that is, of course, scoring and creating goals. And, well, Dundee had a couple of chances, and Super Jack Butland did what he had to do as well. The game, for me, was more just kind of getting through it, wasn't it? Nobody's going to remember the quarter-final of the League Cup in 25 years' time when we look back on us retaining our trophy, which is obviously what we all want. But we got some game time for some of the newer lads. We got them used to what it's like playing at Ibrox, and we, of course, booked our semi-final spot, and we did that well, you know. And we also had, just a wee bit of a personal one here, we also had former Rangers first teamer Fraser Aird join us at the Calgary club, and it's always good to see Fraser. Unfortunately, he's injured from duties with Calgary Cavalry, and that was his first game. He was saying on the weekend that he's missed. He played 61 games in a row and then just got a bit of a knee injury, so he's hopeful that he's going to be back for the playoff run-in, which is coming up in a wee bit here. But always great to see Fraser down at the club. I should maybe have put that in the positives, but I just wanted that wee plug in there. On the positives, the result, the semi-final to look forward to against Motherwell, which is probably, I guess you could say, the most favourable draw that we could have got out of the four teams that are left, and that's coming up here in early October, probably going to be the 3rd of October, I guess. Great to see Tav back on the score sheet, and actually I thought he played well. I thought he played really well on the weekend there. That was the Tav that we've been missing. You know, when the pressure was on him, he was still producing assists and goals, and he hasn't been doing that. You know, that was his first goal of the season. And do you know what else was great? I thought seeing him get substituted at the end of the game, and I don't mean that in a negative sense whatsoever, I mean it in a wholly positive sense, where I think that previous managers have overused him, and you know, you get to that point where it kind of takes its toll on him, you know. And I know that it was only 10 minutes, but 10 minutes in a high pressure game, a quarter final of a cup competition against a team who are really trying their very best, you never know what can happen in that time. So that's 10 minutes of rest that he got that he normally wouldn't have had. Actually, probably 15, 16 minutes, 17, something. I can't remember how much extra time was on at the end there, but just good to see him being managed a wee bit more. Good for the crowd to give him a bit of an ovation on the way off as well, and hopefully that does well for his own psychological well-being, and it gives an opportunity for him to see the game from a different angle as well, because one of the great things about Tav is he's never injured, and he's always playing every moment of every game, and it's different in the game than watching the game. So good on all fronts for Tav on the weekend there, and I thought, as I say, that he played quite well. CD9 was really good. His goals were great, and he did well for the penalty as well. I thought Jefty played well too, and as I mentioned earlier, there more time in the legs of the players, you know, and as we continue to build and shape things as we're going forward there. And Super Jack Butland did what he had to do when he had to do it as well, and that's exactly what we want and need from him. Negatives, I think for me, Honestly, the only real negative, again, was not scoring more goals. Other than that, you can never be dissatisfied with a 3-0 win against a fellow SPFL Premiership side. So good for Rangers. Not a lot of negatives coming out of that. In terms of the stats, between live score and Rangers, it's all over the place. So I'm going to use the Rangers ones this week. They said we had 59% possession, 18 shots on goal with 11 on target versus Dundee's 3 shots on goal with 2 on target. So not so much dominating from a possession perspective, but certainly dominating in the chances created. So that's a good thing. On the referee watch, we had another newbie for the season there, a guy called Chris Graham, I believe. He looked like he was maybe just about old enough to drink, which is good for him. Hopefully he went and got himself a wee shandy afterwards. I think he did okay. Overall, he got involved when he had to get involved. He missed a blatant foul on Dessers by the big defender who ended up fouling him for the penalty that was given, but we should have got a penalty in the first half, and it kind of looked like he was looking right at it, and I thought that's where VAR were supposed to help us intervene. I mean, there was a bit of contact there, was a bit of man-on-man action that nobody really wants to see, and that should have been a penalty. But he gave the one in the second half, so does that even it out? Actually, no, it doesn't, because the two of them should have been penalties. But at least he called the second one, probably looking out for it a wee bit more than he was in the first half. So I think I'll give him a 7 out of 10. No real complaints on the referee front, and good to see some new blood coming through as well. And we don't know him well enough to hate him yet, so that's a good thing as well. 2 games this week: Europa League group stage opener, and then back to league business as well. So the first game is against Malmo away on Thursday, and it's an earlier kick-off time. This, in case you didn't know, and that's for Thursday the 26th of September, and it's 12:45 Eastern Standard Time kick-off, 5 till 5:45 PM UK. And I'm not too sure what to expect. Malmo are doing very well. Looks like they're going to win their league, and their league I think goes from, I don't actually know when the league goes from. But they're obviously playing well, doing well. That if you're going to be champions, then there's obviously a lot to be celebrated in that. We just need to go and put in a performance. I think if you look at our performance there just on the weekend, something more like that. The last 2 performances, figure out what we need to do against the opposition that's in front of us, make the adjustments during the game that we need to make, and then just apply ourselves and go forward and stand up for ourselves during the game as well. So if we do that, then hopefully we get a favourable result to kick off this campaign. And then on Sunday we're at home to Hibs, and this is unusual because this is an early kick-off time. This is a 7 AM Eastern Standard Time, noon UK, and that's Sunday the 29th of September, so that's 5 AM for me here. And we usually do well against Hibs in general, and certainly at Ibrox, so hopefully that continues on Sunday as we continue just to keep going. That's let's get another clean sheet. Let's score more goals than them and then go from there. Hibs had a bit of a rocky start to the league campaign. They've got 5 points from 5 games as it stands right now, and all 5 of those points have come in the last 3 games. So they're certainly trending upwards, if we were to use that sort of phrase there. And I think it was 2 draws and then a win on the weekend. So they're coming in on a bit of a high. So hopefully we'll get a good open game of football and we get the 3 points. That's the only thing that really matters. On the RTV front from the weekend there, everything was A-OK as far as I can tell. Certainly it was a good feed that we had at the Rangers Sports Club of Calgary, and I didn't hear anything from anyone else, so that's a good thing. On the shout-outs for this week, firstly, I'd like to wish a very hearty congratulations to Rangers Supporters Club of Calgary Vice President Alex Liddell on finally becoming a Canadian citizen after his wife Lorelei said that it was after like 50 years of being in the country. And I remember him talking to me about this. I think we were having a couple of beers one time, and he says, you don't have to pay for citizenship once you become a pensioner or if you're over 70. I can't remember, some dodge of some description. But anyway, he went through what he had to go through, and he sent us a photograph of him beaming in front of the Canadian flag with a couple of the, I guess, dignitaries that took to do with the celebration. So congratulations, Alex, and that's good news. And speaking of Alex and his lovely wife Lorelei, for some bizarre reason put her hand up to join the Rangers Supporters Club of Calgary committee, and Lorelei is now treasurer. Andy Carey has been doing it for quite a long time, and last year, with about 35 minutes notice, decided he didn't want to do it. This year he gave everybody a year's notice and said, I do want to step down and pass on the reins to someone else. So they'll do a transition and we'll get ourselves not back on track as if we weren't on track financially, but we'll get Lorelei all the support that she needs to be a success in the role. Andy's still going to be our social media guy. So thank you very much for everything you did in the treasurer chair and for all the work that you do for us on the social media front. And just talking about the Rangers Supporters Club of Calgary, since I am talking about it, we did attract a new member. A guy called Wes joined us on the weekend and was quite pleased to see that the bar was open. And then he also joined us for the AGM when other members gave us a bit of a wide berth on that. Okay, thanks folks, and so good for him. Hopefully we'll see him again. I think that's the third new member, and we have a pattern forming of new members joining, staying around for one game, and then we don't see them again. Maybe Wes might buck that trend or break that mould and come back and see us again some other time. Also, I'd like to pass on the very best of wishes to Graham Souness. You might have seen today that he had an emergency heart procedure involving stents and such over the last 10 days or so, and it kind of started when he was watching I think he was watching England actually, which would probably drive everyone to drink, and he, apart from the English people of course, and then he felt something going on, and the great thing with Graham is that, having had the history of heart challenges that he's had, he recognised some signs that something wasn't correct right away, and then got himself checked in, and got the procedure done fairly quickly before it became anything more serious than that. I had the opportunity to pass on our best wishes to Graham just earlier today. Actually, I sent it yesterday. He got back to me today, just thanking us and being very fine-fettle, but he was very appreciative of our best wishes there. So get well soon to Mr. Souness there. And the women's team had another good result, another clean sheet there, and beating Hearts 2-0, and that's a significant result. I think I mentioned before, maybe last week or the week before, that Hearts was the result. I think it was a draw last year, 0-0 or something like that, which started the rot, kind of like our Ross County started the rot for us in our quest to become champions last year. Hearts was theirs, and then we ended up having a couple of dodgy results after that. So to get a good result at Hearts and keep a clean sheet and extend our goal difference there is a great result. So congratulations to Joe Potter and the team at large there. On the convention update, I can officially confirm it's 262 days and 37 weeks until we do what we do in Kissimmee, Osceola County, Florida. That's June the 12th to the 15th, and of course that is at the Omni Orlando at Champions Gate. It's called the Omni Orlando, but it's in Kissimmee, I have been told that, so I'll just give you the full name, but it's in Kissimmee for sure. And this past week, we've essentially been really looking at our entertainment options, really going heavy on that, and we're getting closer to really figuring out what's feasible, what's affordable, and what's appropriate for us as we look to replace the flute band entertainment with something else Rangers related that still will have a cultural feel to it. We're not going away from that. Specifically, I'm talking here for the Tam Plunkett Blue Night, which is the Friday night, if you haven't joined us for a convention thus far. So up to and including literally minutes before this conversation that I'm having with you, we were discussing entertainment options. So I say that with an opportunity to dangle a wee bit of a carrot in front of you, to give you an option or an opportunity to understand that we will be making some announcements fairly quickly here, and we'll get ourselves organised. Another reminder that we have the rooms out for booking, we have the tickets out for sale, and hopefully we'll get some announcements here for VIPs joining us for what our entertainment itinerary is going to look like for the weekend, and then just get on with making it feel like an actual convention. So that's the plan for that. NARSA Convention Stories I'm still asking for these. My sister Debbie still hasn't given me anything. I know folks that are listening have convention stories. Please send one in to me or send me a quick message and I will absolutely get back to you and we can get the message out there in whatever format you would like. We can even do an interview if you want to do that and we'll figure that part out as well. So lots of stuff to come over the next wee while. Please stay tuned and we will get the information to you when we can. On the communication front for this week, the Gers Guide was not on the website this week, so I don't know if all the fun and hilarity of today's chairman's press conference in some way took the communications team away from their day jobs, which is a wee bit disappointing because I do rely on that. So I would imagine today will be a reflection of what happened at Ibrox on the weekend. Have no idea what's happening during the week. I imagine our press conference for the Malmo game is probably going to be Wednesday, I would think. Then we've got the game on Thursday, of course. On Friday, I imagine we'll have the press conference for the Dundee game. The Dundee game, for the Hibs game. We've already played Dundee, Gary. And then on Sunday, we have a bit of a doubleheader. The men's first team are going to be at home to Hibs, as I discussed earlier. And the women are taking on... I can't even remember who, but the women are playing on Sunday as well. So my apologies, I should have had that organised. But the women's team are playing on Sunday. That is an absolute guarantee. Trust me. Trust me on that one. And then you'll hopefully get a chance. Dundee United. They're playing Dundee United on the 20th. Oh, actually, do you know what? It says here it's at 4 p.m. So you get a chance to watch both games if you're into that. It's at Foundation Park. It's in the SWPL Cup, the Sky Sports Cup that is, and they're away to Dundee United. There you go. I knew I could pull this out if I had to. And in terms of other communication, I think I've mentioned it a couple of times now, but the chairman's press conference today. Now, I haven't seen the actual press conference in and of itself, but I did see the RTV kind of not so much scripted interview afterwards, but more polished and kind of cut and professionally put together. I saw that on YouTube earlier today. I don't think there were a whole bunch of things to get us excited or disappointed or anything like that. There was not a lot of new information shared. There was an inference there that Dave King coming back to the board was unlikely to happen. He says we have a plan for future funding. We are fully behind the manager, cognizant of the fact that the manager has been asked to do a whole bunch of things that typical managers wouldn't be asked to do in lieu of appropriate leadership at the boardroom level. But John's a great guy, I think universally liked. I'm going to take a peek at the actual press conference itself because I had a bit of feedback from a couple of people today that it maybe wasn't quite as stirring and positive as we were hoping, which is quite unusual because John's a very good speaker and he knows what he wants to say. So I'll see that. But in one hand, it's very good to have our chairman, interim or otherwise, coming out and actually telling us some stuff, and he was quite clear about the fact that he is genuinely interim and he has some immediate things on his to-do list, which is great, and then hopefully we'll get to see a bit more of him as we move forward and figure that sort of stuff out as well. Another wee thing on the communication front. This is not so much a plug for my business, but I did interview David Edgar from the Heart and Hand Rangers podcast network, and of course David's been our MC at our conventions, does a fantastic job for NARSA at the conventions, and I did interview him not so much from a true Rangers perspective, but from what was your life like that built up to and into Heart and Hand becoming the media giant that it is in Rangers land today. So I mentioned that I did put it on the NARSA WhatsApp chat yesterday, and I'll just put a link there if you're interested in listening to it. It's a wee bit more life stuff. There's inference there in terms of his battles with addiction and such, and how the Heart and Hand podcast came about, and what they've done thus far. David's brilliant. He's a great speaker and gets the story across very, very well. So I'll put the link in if you're interested in that. Go and download it from your favourite platform, or you can see it on my website as well, which is garygillen.com. But yeah, a little bit kind of almost Rangers, kind of somewhat maybe not. So anyway, and it was recorded a wee while ago, so there's nothing about the current currency of the games or the team or anything like that. In fact, this week I might actually put out another interview I did with Chris Jack, the journalist from back home as well. I think I'm going to put that out this weekend, so that's a wee bit of a sneak peek on that. Chris doesn't even know that yet, so I will text him as soon as we're done here. Just a quick reminder, it's this Friday is the Rangers Ladies Lunch. I didn't see anything about it being sold out, so there might be some last minute tickets available for you, and Pedro Mendes and Lee McCulloch are going to be there. And then the next big event that I know of is the charity ball, which is on the 2nd of November, so I believe that will be the day before the semi-final against Motherwell, so that you could have a real Rangers themed weekend that weekend, and that's at the Doubletree by Houghton, and it is an 80s theme. Okay, my friends, that's going to do it for this week. Thank you as always very, very, very much for taking the time to listen. Please do share it with whomever you think might enjoy it, and until next week, here's to two very, very big games for us, and seeing where we are actually at this time next week. Hopefully it's after 2 victories and that we can continue with the feel good factor. That's the plan anyway. Until next week, take care and all the very best to you, okay? Follow.